A pit boss who worked the Vegas Strip for 12 years just broke his silence. What he and 6 other casino insiders are revealing about the industry's psychological tactics could change the way you gamble forever. And casinos are scrambling to keep this information from going viral. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how casinos manipulate your perception of time, money, and winning. The psychological warfare being waged on the casino floor is more sophisticated than you ever imagined, and it's all perfectly legal. Casino floor layouts aren't random. They're carefully engineered labyrinths designed by environmental psychologists to keep you wandering, disoriented, and gambling longer than you intended. A casino architect who worked on major Las Vegas properties for over 15 years explains that every casino floor is built on what the industry calls the playground design principle. There are no straight paths from the entrance to anywhere you actually want to go. The route from the hotel elevators to the restaurant winds through the busiest sections of the gaming floor. The path to the bathroom forces you past hundreds of slot machines. This isn't accidental. Design firms that specialize in casino layouts use sophisticated computer modeling to determine the optimal placement of every machine, every table, and every pathway to maximize what they call exposure opportunities. That's industry language for chances to gamble. A documented case from a Las Vegas casino manager involves tracking studies done with player card data. The casino installed new carpeting in certain sections and analyzed foot traffic patterns before and after. They discovered that by simply changing the carpet pattern to be more visually busy and disorienting, they increased the average time players spent on the floor by 8%. 8% more time gambling translates directly to 8% more revenue for the casino. But the maze design serves another crucial psychological function. When you can't easily orient yourself or find exits, you lose track of time. A pit supervisor from Atlantic City describes how casinos intentionally create what he calls navigation confusion. You might walk past the same bank of slot machines 3 times trying to find the cashier cage. And each time, your brain registers those machines as potential playing opportunities. The environmental design extends to lighting and ceiling height as well. Casinos use specific lighting temperatures and intensities in different zones. The main gaming floor typically uses warmer lighting that's neither too bright nor too dim, creating what designers call comfortable disorientation. You can see clearly enough to play, but the lighting doesn't help you establish spatial awareness or track time passage. Ceiling heights are manipulated too. Lower ceilings in slot machine areas create an intimate, cozy feeling that encourages settling in for long sessions. Higher ceilings in areas with table games create a sense of grandeur and importance. A casino consultant who has worked with properties worldwide explains that these environmental manipulations are so effective that most players never consciously notice them, yet they dramatically influence behavior. The bathrooms are strategically positioned to maximize your exposure to gambling opportunities. A casino operations manager from a major tribal casino describes the calculation that goes into bathroom placement. They want bathrooms accessible enough that players don't leave the property, but far enough away that every bathroom trip becomes a journey through temptation. Studies conducted by casino design firms have shown that the average player who walks to the bathroom will glance at or briefly consider playing an average of 37 different machines during the round trip. About 15% of players will stop and play at least briefly during a bathroom trip, even if they had been taking a break. The maze design also makes it difficult to leave. Multiple casino managers describe how exit signs are intentionally minimal and exits are never positioned in obvious locations. You can enter a casino easily, but finding your way out requires navigation through the gaming floor. This isn't illegal, but it's absolutely intentional. One particularly revealing study mentioned by a casino architect tracked eye movement and navigation patterns of first-time casino visitors. The research showed that the average visitor attempting to leave for the first time spent 9 minutes searching for the exit, during which they walked past an average of 240 slot machines and 15 table games. The psychological impact of that extended exit attempt is significant. Some percentage of players decide to play just one more machine before leaving. Free drinks seem like casino generosity, but they're actually one of the most profitable investments casinos make. Every dollar spent on complimentary alcohol generates approximately $7 in additional gambling revenue, according to industry analysts. A beverage manager who worked at 3 different Las Vegas casinos over 8 years explains the real strategy behind free drinks. Casinos aren't being generous, they're impairing your judgment systematically and legally. Alcohol affects your ability to make rational decisions, track money, and recognize when you're losing. The drink service timing is carefully calculated. Cocktail servers are trained to approach players at specific intervals. They're instructed to be friendly and attentive, creating positive associations with continued play. A casino host describes how servers are trained to recognize players who are winning or on hot streaks and prioritize drink service to those players specifically. The reasoning is simple. A player who just won wants to celebrate. Offering them a drink right after a win creates a powerful psychological association between gambling, winning, and reward. That player is more likely to keep playing while intoxicated, and their decision-making becomes progressively impaired. Documentation from casino training materials shows that cocktail servers are taught to identify high-value targets for drink service. These are players who are betting larger amounts, playing for extended periods, or showing signs of being on tilt, which is industry language for making emotionally driven, irrational bets after losses. A pit supervisor from Reno shares a particularly illuminating example. The casino tracked players who accepted 3 or more alcoholic drinks during their session versus players who drank non-alcoholic beverages. The players who consumed alcohol stayed on average 42% longer and lost 68% more money. The alcohol wasn't just impairing judgment, it was destroying bankroll discipline. But there's a more insidious element to the free drink strategy. Many players don't realize that accepting complimentary drinks creates an informal psychological debt. A casino host explains that players who receive free drinks often feel subconsciously obligated to continue playing. They feel like they owe the casino something in return for the generosity, even though those drinks are part of a calculated business strategy. The drink pricing for players who do pay is strategically set as well. Non-alcoholic drinks like water, coffee, and soda are often provided free to all players, not out of generosity, but because casinos want players hydrated and alert enough to keep gambling. Dehydration leads to fatigue, which leads to players leaving. Casino training manuals specifically instruct beverage staff to keep players comfortable and engaged through drink service. Comfortable means slightly impaired, but not sick or obviously intoxicated. Engaged means continuing to gamble. A beverage director from a major casino chain describes the careful balance casinos try to maintain. They want players drinking enough to lower inhibitions and impair judgment, but not so much that they become disruptive or unable to gamble. Staff are trained to recognize when players are approaching that line and to slow drink service accordingly. There's also a social engineering element. When other players see cocktail servers circulating with free drinks, it creates an atmosphere of festivity and abundance. The casino feels like a party where the house is being generous. This social proof encourages newer or more hesitant gamblers to relax and start playing. One casino manager admits that beverage service costs represent about 4% of gaming revenue, but the return on that investment is substantial. Players under the influence stay longer, bet more aggressively, chase losses more readily, and make poorer strategic decisions. From a pure business perspective, complimentary alcohol is one of the casino's most effective tools. Modern slot machines are programmed to show you near misses constantly, creating the psychological illusion that you're close to winning when mathematically you're not close at all. A slot technician who maintained machines for a major casino operator for 9 years explains that near misses are built into the game design intentionally. When you see 2 jackpot symbols line up with the third one just above or below the pay line, that's not random. The machine's random number generator already determined you lost before the reels even started spinning. The near-miss display is pure theater. The psychological impact of near misses is profound. Research in behavioral psychology has shown that near misses activate the same reward centers in your brain as actual wins. Your brain interprets the near miss as evidence that you're getting closer to winning, which motivates continued play. A game designer who has created slot machine content for several manufacturers describes how near-miss frequency is carefully calibrated. Too many near misses and players become suspicious. Too few and players lose interest. The optimal frequency keeps players engaged and hopeful without triggering skepticism. Documentation from slot machine testing shows that games with programmed near misses keep players gambling an average of 30% longer than games without this feature. The near miss creates what psychologists call the almost effect, where your brain focuses on how close you came rather than the fact that you lost. But near misses aren't limited to slot machines. Table games use similar psychological principles. A blackjack pit boss describes how players will remember the hands where they lost by 1 card much more vividly than the hands they won easily. That emotional memory of almost winning drives players to keep playing, convinced their luck is about to change. Roulette provides another example. A croupier with 15 years of experience explains that players who bet on red will often see the ball land on black numbers immediately adjacent to red numbers on the wheel. The ball was so close to landing on red, but mathematically, every number on the wheel is equally probable. The near miss is purely psychological, but it's incredibly effective at encouraging continued play. The slot machine industry has refined near-miss programming to an art form. A technical consultant who has reviewed game mathematics for regulatory approval describes how manufacturers test different near-miss patterns to find the optimal configuration. They're looking for the pattern that maximizes time on device and total amount wagered without triggering player complaints or regulatory scrutiny. One particularly manipulative technique involves what insiders call the waterfall near miss. This is when multiple near miss patterns appear in quick succession across several spins. You might see 2 bonus symbols with the third just missing, then 2 jackpot symbols with the third just missing, then a near miss on a different feature. Your brain interprets this as evidence that the machine is heating up or about to pay, when in reality, each spin is independent and your odds haven't changed at all. A casino mathematician explains that near misses exploit a cognitive bias called the gambler's fallacy. Players incorrectly believe that after several near misses, a win must be coming soon. In reality, each spin is completely independent. Past results have zero influence on future outcomes. But our brains aren't wired to understand true randomness, and casinos exploit that vulnerability ruthlessly. Player testimony collected by casino hosts reveals the emotional impact of near misses. Players describe feeling frustrated but motivated after near misses. They report thinking things like, "I was so close," or the next spin has to hit, or I can feel it's about to pay. These thoughts keep players feeding money into machines that are programmed to show them almost wins while delivering actual losses. Walk into any major casino and you'll notice something missing: clocks and windows. This isn't an oversight or aesthetic choice. It's a deliberate strategy to destroy your sense of time and keep you gambling longer. A casino general manager who has run properties in 3 different states explains that the absence of time cues is one of the most fundamental principles of casino design. When you can't see outside and don't know what time it is, you lose your natural rhythm. You don't realize you've been playing for 4 hours instead of 1. You don't notice that it's 3 in the morning and you have work in 5 hours. The windowless design serves multiple purposes. Obviously, it prevents you from seeing whether it's day or night, but it also eliminates external weather cues and seasonal changes. Inside the casino, it's always the same controlled environment. This temporal disorientation encourages what industry insiders call suspended time, where players enter a mental state disconnected from real-world obligations. A casino architect describes how modern casino designs have evolved beyond simply eliminating windows. New properties are built with internal architecture that provides no spatial or temporal reference points. The lighting remains constant throughout the day and night. The temperature stays the same. The ambient noise level doesn't change. This creates an environment where your natural circadian rhythms are disrupted. Studies conducted by casino operators have measured the impact of time awareness on gambling duration. In test environments where clocks were visible, players gambled for an average of 2.3 hours. In identical environments where clocks were removed, average playing time increased to 3.7 hours. That's a 60% increase in gambling duration simply from removing time cues. But casinos go beyond just removing clocks. Staff are trained to avoid giving specific time information. A pit supervisor describes how dealers and floor managers are instructed to give vague responses if players ask what time it is. Instead of saying, "It's 2:45 a.m., they might say, "It's late," or "Time to hit that jackpot." This keeps players in the suspended time state. The psychological mechanism behind this is well understood. Time awareness triggers rational thinking. When you realize it's 3 in the morning, your brain starts calculating consequences. You think about work tomorrow, about how tired you'll be, about how much money you've spent. These rational thoughts are the enemy of continued gambling. By destroying time awareness, casinos keep you in an emotional, impulsive state. Cell phones have partially disrupted this strategy since players can check the time on their devices. But casinos have adapted. Many properties now offer charging stations positioned deep in the gaming floor, encouraging players to leave their phones plugged in, away from where they're playing. Without their phone, players lose their primary time-checking device. A casino host shares an illuminating observation. Players who wear watches typically have shorter gambling sessions than players without watches. The casino can't ban watches, but they've noticed the correlation. Time awareness equals shorter sessions equals less revenue. The windowless environment also prevents players from using natural light to gauge time passage. A surveillance director explains that players will often express genuine shock when leaving the casino and discovering it's daytime or nighttime. They'll say things like, "I had no idea it was morning already," or "I can't believe it's dark out." That shock is the moment they realize the casino's time manipulation worked. Documentation from casino focus groups reveals that many players actually appreciate the timeless environment. They describe it as escaping reality or taking a break from the real world. Casinos market this as a feature rather than acknowledging it's a manipulation tactic. The suspended time state is reframed as a luxury escape, rather than a psychological trap. One particularly telling piece of evidence comes from casino employee break rooms. Unlike the public gaming areas, employee spaces have clocks everywhere. Staff need to track their shifts, breaks, and schedules. The casino only wants employees aware of time, not customers. This deliberate double standard reveals that time elimination is strategic, not aesthetic. Casinos don't want you using real money. They want you using chips, and there's a psychological reason why that matters enormously. A cage supervisor who has worked in casino cash operations for over a decade explains that chips serve one primary purpose: psychological distance from real money. When you're betting chips instead of cash, your brain doesn't process the loss as intensely. Chips feel like game pieces, not actual wealth. The psychological research backing this is substantial. Studies have shown that people are willing to bet larger amounts and take more risks with casino chips than with equivalent cash. The physical difference matters. Cash feels valuable, tangible, and real. Chips feel like toys or tokens. This mental accounting error costs players billions annually. A casino host describes the training materials for floor staff. They're explicitly taught to refer to chips as checks, or even just by their color. 500 in black sounds less intimidating than $500. The language is crafted to reinforce the psychological distance between chips and actual money. The chip design itself is engineered to feel premium, but not valuable. High-quality clay composite materials, intricate designs, satisfying weight and sound. Casinos spend significant money making chips feel special, but that specialness doesn't translate to value perception. Instead, the premium feel makes players more comfortable handling and betting larger amounts. A telling experiment was conducted at a casino in Mississippi. On certain tables, they temporarily allowed cash play instead of requiring chip conversion. Player bet sizes decreased by an average of 37% when using cash versus chips. The casino ended the experiment immediately because it was costing them revenue. But the chip system serves another important function. It creates friction for cashing out while eliminating friction for continued play. When you want to leave, you have to walk to the cage, wait in line, and convert your chips back to cash. That process provides multiple opportunities for you to change your mind and keep playing. Meanwhile, getting more chips is effortless. Dealers will exchange cash for chips right at the table, and many casinos have chip runners who will bring chips directly to players. A poker room manager shares an observation about tournament players versus cash game players. In tournaments, players are often more aggressive and willing to risk their entire stack because they're playing with chips they never converted from cash. They paid an entry fee, received tournament chips, and those chips never felt like real money. Cash game players who bought in directly with cash tend to play more conservatively because the money chip conversion happened more recently. The chip system also obscures how much you're actually betting. A pit boss describes how players will casually toss out a green chip without fully processing that it's $25. They might never dream of pulling a $20 bill and a $5 bill from their wallet and lighting it on fire, but they'll bet that same amount on a single hand of blackjack without hesitation because it's just one chip. Color coding reinforces this disconnect. Red chips are $5, green are $25, black are $100. Players think in terms of colors, not dollar amounts. I'm playing green sounds much less serious than I'm betting $25 per bet hand. The language shift reflects and reinforces the mental accounting error. Casinos have also introduced TITO technology, which stands for ticket in, ticket out. Instead of coins, slot machines now print tickets. This eliminates the satisfying physical sensation of coins dropping. But more importantly, it makes your winnings feel even less real. A piece of paper is even more abstract than chips. Players are more likely to immediately reinsert a ticket into another machine than they would be to re-gamble actual cash. A slot operations director explains that Tito technology increased reinvestment rates by over 40%. Before Tito, when players won, they'd collect their coins in a cup and carry them to the cage. That physical act of collecting winnings and walking to cash out created a natural break where players would often decide to leave. With Tito, players just take their ticket and immediately insert it into the next machine. The reinvestment is frictionless. That player's card the casino gave you isn't a generous loyalty program. It's a sophisticated surveillance and manipulation tool that tracks everything you do and uses that data to keep you gambling longer and losing more. A casino marketing director who has managed player development programs for major properties explains that players' cards serve two primary functions. First, they collect incredibly detailed data about your gambling behavior. Second, they provide casinos with direct communication channels and incentive tools to manipulate your future play. The data collection is comprehensive and honestly disturbing. Every bet you make, how long you play, what games you prefer, what denominations you choose, when you typically visit, how often you win or lose, your response to different promotional offers. Everything is tracked, stored, and analyzed. A database administrator who worked in casino player tracking systems describes the level of detail. The system knows you prefer penny slots on Wednesday afternoons. It knows you typically play for 90 minutes before taking a bathroom break. It knows you're more likely to increase bet size after a small win. All of this information is fed into algorithms that determine how to maximize your lifetime value to the casino. The promotional offers you receive aren't random. They're precisely calculated to get you back in the door and playing longer. A player development manager explains that every free play offer, every meal comp, every hotel discount is designed to generate more gambling revenue than it costs the casino. Here's how it works. The casino knows from your card data that you typically lose $300 per visit. If they send you a $50 free play offer and it gets you to visit when you otherwise wouldn't have, they're ahead $250. The math is simple and it's always in the casino's favor. But the manipulation goes deeper. Casinos use player card data to identify vulnerable players and target them specifically. A casino host describes how the system flags players showing signs of problem gambling, increasing visit frequency, longer sessions, higher bet sizes, playing outside their normal patterns. Instead of offering help, casinos often increase promotional offers to these players because they're becoming more profitable. Documentation from casino player development departments shows explicit strategies for what they call save campaigns. These are targeted offers sent to players who haven't visited recently. The casino knows these players were regular visitors who stopped coming, often because they lost too much money. Instead of leaving them alone, the casino sends increasingly aggressive promotions to get them back. The tier systems in players' clubs are designed to encourage increased play. A casino loyalty program manager explains that tier thresholds are set just beyond what your current play levels would naturally achieve. If you're earning 5,000 points per month, the next tier threshold might be 7,000. This creates an incentive to gamble more to reach that next level, even though the additional benefits rarely justify the increased cost. Players' cards also enable what casinos call pain point intervention. If you're losing heavily and appear ready to leave, the system can alert a host to approach you with a meal comp or other offer to keep you on property. A pit supervisor shares that floor managers are trained to watch for players cashing out large amounts or showing signs of frustration. The player tracking system helps identify these moments. The psychological impact of players' cards extends to win-loss statements. Many casinos will provide win-loss statements for tax purposes, but insiders warn these statements often don't tell the whole story. A cage supervisor explains that the statements show net win/loss, not how much you actually wagered. You might have put $50,000 through machines and lost $5,000, but your statement only shows the $5,000 loss. This obscures the full scope of your gambling activity. Casinos also use players' card data for pricing discrimination. A hotel reservations manager describes how room rates can vary based on your gambling history. Good players get better rates, not as a reward, but as an incentive to gamble more. The room discount is more than paid for by expected gambling losses. The most disturbing revelation comes from multiple casino managers who describe how player tracking data is used to identify and cultivate whales, which are high-value players. These players are assigned personal hosts who monitor their play in real time and intervene with offers, comps, and personal attention designed to maximize their losses. One host describes receiving system alerts when one of their players was losing particularly heavily. Instead of checking on the player's well-being, the host was expected to send drinks, offer encouragement, and keep them playing. The player tracking system had identified an opportunity to extract maximum value, and the host's job was to exploit it. The number one secret casinos use to hook you is also the most insidious. Modern slot machines are programmed to make you feel like you're winning, even when you're actually losing money on most spins. A game designer who has created content for major slot manufacturers explains that modern machines celebrate losses as wins. This isn't an exaggeration or conspiracy theory. It's documented in industry literature as losses disguised as wins, or LDWs. Here's how it works. You bet $1 on a 50-line slot machine. That's 2 cents per line. The machine spins and you win 30 cents. The machine explodes with lights, sounds, and animations celebrating your big win. Except you didn't win. You lost 70 cents. But your brain registered the celebration and feels like you won. Research in neuroscience has shown that these celebration sounds trigger dopamine release in your brain, identical to actual winning. The sounds are carefully engineered by audio psychologists to activate your reward centers. Every chime, every musical cue, every sound effect is designed to make you feel good even when you're losing. A slot director who has overseen thousands of machines across multiple properties describes how manufacturers test different sound packages. They use focus groups with biometric monitoring to measure which sounds generate the strongest positive emotional response. The sounds that make players feel best regardless of actual win-loss outcomes are the ones that make it into production machines. But it gets worse. Machines are programmed to celebrate more enthusiastically for certain types of outcomes. If you're on a losing streak and hit even a small win, the machine might produce bigger celebrations than it would for the same win when you're already winning. This dynamic celebration system is designed to provide emotional reinforcement precisely when you're most likely to quit due to losses. A slot technician describes accessing the back-end settings of modern machines. The celebration thresholds can be adjusted. Casinos can literally dial up or down how much the machine celebrates, and they do adjust these settings based on performance data. If a machine isn't holding players long enough, they might increase celebration frequency to boost engagement. The visual design works in concert with sounds. Machines use bright colors, rapid animations, and visual effects that your brain interprets as winning regardless of the mathematical reality. a game artist who has worked on slot design, explains that every visual element is tested for emotional impact. They're creating the illusion of winning through sensory manipulation. Comparison studies between older mechanical slots and modern video slots show dramatic differences in player session length. Mechanical slots with simple lights and bells kept players engaged for an average of 45 minutes. Modern video slots with sophisticated sound design and celebration systems keep players engaged for an average of 2 hours and 15 minutes. The increased engagement translates directly to increased losses. The celebration programming extends to near-miss sounds. When you narrowly miss a big win, the machine doesn't stay silent. It often produces sounds suggesting you almost got there, encouraging continued play. These sounds have no connection to your actual odds of winning on the next spin, but they create the psychological impression that you're getting closer. Casino managers admit that celebration sounds are one of the most effective tools for player retention. A slot's operations manager shares internal data showing that machines with more aggressive celebration programming generate 30 to 40% more revenue than quieter machines with identical mathematics. Players literally lose more money on machines that make them feel better about losing. The most cynical element is that manufacturers and casinos know exactly what they're doing. Internal documents from game manufacturers explicitly discuss designing celebration systems to maintain player engagement during loss periods and provide positive reinforcement independent of actual outcomes. They're not hiding it from each other, they're just hiding it from you. Before I wrap up, I'd really appreciate it if you'd subscribe and tell me in the comments. Have you noticed any of these manipulation tactics while gambling? Your awareness might help others avoid the trap. So now you know all 7 secrets that casino insiders say you should be aware of. The constant celebrations, player tracking surveillance, chip psychology, timeless environments, near-miss programming, impairment strategies, and maze-like designs are all working together to separate you from your money as efficiently as possible. What's the best decision according to every casino insider who came forward? Set strict loss limits before you enter. Never gamble more than you can afford to lose completely. And remember that every single element of the casino environment is designed to exploit human psychology. The lights, sounds, free drinks, and friendly staff are all part of a calculated system where the math always favors the house. Stay alert, stay aware, and gamble responsibly if you choose to gamble at all. Subscribe for more insider casino information they don't want you to know.